Good morning. Welcome to the AviaDev Europe Summer Touchpoint. Great to have you all online today, and even better to have Mr. Luís Araújo with us today. As you know, Luís is the president of the National Tourism Board of Portugal, Visit Portugal as we know that, as well as the president of the European Travel Commission, ETC. So welcome, Luís. Nice to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Gavin, and thank you for having me.
No, it's our pleasure, our pleasure. So let's get straight into this, Luís. You know, I don't want to go back over 2020. We all know how that's been, and even the first few months of this year have not really been great either. But there are some grassroots. You know, we're seeing in the US, the TSA numbers, the airlines are putting back schedules. How are you seeing these next few summer months? You know, what are you seeing? Are these grassroots real? And you know, what are you thinking about the next couple of months?
Well, what we see now is that there is a stronger light at the end of the tunnel. The vaccination programs rolling out in every country, especially in the USA and inside Europe. The digital certificate coming in force after the 1st of July, which I think is a very positive news. The reduction of pressure on health systems helps also for our governments and each country to release also a little bit the mobility between countries. So I think we can say that we do have a stronger light at the end of the tunnel. At the European Travel Commission, we made some questionnaires, and we see that 70% of Europeans are likely to travel this summer. 60% are very confident on traveling, especially on the COVID certificate, and 2/3, which is something that is really interesting, 2/3 only feel confident if they know the country has protocols, effective sanitary protocols in place. And this is very interesting. It shows how the needs of the consumer has changed and how do we have to address these needs in each destination. So I think this is really important. Of course, we still have some job to do in order to grow this grass, as you said. Mm-hmm. And this has a lot to do with clear communication, with a lot of what I said, very simple health protocols in place, reconnecting air connectivity, but most important, clear rules and very effective protocols.
And if we can predict, how do you see the winter? You know, obviously here in the Northern Hemisphere, winter is always a tougher time in tourism. Other, you know, those that are focused on ski, etc. But how do you see winter? I mean, what are you and the other tourism boards believing is winter might look like?
Well, of course, it all depends on the measures and the evolution of all the system and the pandemic evolution. But what we see is, and that's another study that the ETC made, that most of people who are traveling are looking for sun and beach and city breaks. This is the biggest demand, especially inside Europe. And for people who want to travel also inside Europe. So we hope that autumn and winter, we will have a lot of city breaks. MICE will return, hopefully. Business traveling will return. And we think we've seen many events taking place already in Portugal. And what we clearly see is that people want to come to the events, but the social part of the event needs to have, I won't say a bigger importance than the business part, but we do need to take very good care and very good attention to organizing these mixed events. Close destinations for sure. In Portugal, we're working a lot with very close destinations, not only the ones who are most used to come to Portugal, but very close destinations. But once again, and I go back to the beginning, we need clear rules. clear rules based on science. Is traveling the main cause of spreading? We already know it isn't. So we need to use data to improve connectivity and improve the safety of those who travel and those who are in the countries. We need effective protocols. Quarantines are not effective, so why do we still implement them? We have to change from a risk country perception to a risk person perception. And finally, clear communication. What is each country doing? What do I need to get inside and to get out? How can I move? What kind of rules, social rules, do I have to bear in mind when I am in another country? This is something that we've been addressing for too long, and I think we should put together all our efforts in order to have this very well coordinated.
No, I think that's a very, very good point to put forward. And tell me, obviously, in your role as the president of a tourism board, how have you changed in the last, since the pandemic? What, you've been very active, we know, obviously, within the ETC, pushing for certain change. But how do you see tourism boards' roles changing now as well through the next months?
Lots of change, but at the same time, I think for us it was important that we already had a strategy in place. Okay. We wanted to grow until 2027, but we wanted to grow with sustainability in our minds and a clear focus on people. People were and still are at the center of our strategy. And we focused on that too. We said everything we'll do will go for the three kinds of people that we address in our strategy. The residents, they need our social support. Tourism is a force for good and has given so much to the country in terms of economy. So we still need to give back to the society what we did during these past years. For the workers, the biggest task was saving jobs and protecting enterprises. In Portugal, we gave 2.5 billion euros of financial support to the tourism enterprises. But we also focused on training. We gave training to more than 160,000 people, more than 1,500 actions since the beginning of the pandemic. This was crucial, not only to reinforce the importance of tourism, but also to prepare them for the future. And I'm glad to say that most of the training that we gave, the biggest demand was for training related with digital, and especially digital marketing and sustainability. And this is quite mind-blowing. It shows that companies, enterprises, workers, executives from these companies are really focused on what the customer needs and what we need for the future of tourism. And also leading the way, the Clean and Safe Seal that we launched in Portugal with more than 22,000 establishments complying with protocols of health and sanitary, supporting the stakeholders. Our 25 delegations have done a terrific job in order to reach not only travel agents, tour operators, airline companies, to understand their needs and try to respond to them in order to keep this relationship stronger. And finally, the tourists, they need the best information. We were very much focused on giving them very clear information. And we're still improving on that because it's never too much. And our campaigns have changed. We've changed from saying come to Portugal to say this is the time to stop with the Can't Skip Hope campaign. We've just relaunched a new campaign saying this is the time to be, the time to be in Portugal, but the time to be yourself fully. And you can only be yourself fully if you travel, if you go from one place to the other. But also the campaign Read Portugal. This is a time to read Portugal and understand a little bit more about the country. So I would say that focusing on these three kinds of people helped us getting the right decisions and the right measures for these three types of people.
No, that's great. And I think obviously from what you said about telling people to hold, and now telling people it's time to think again. It's valid, as you say. We see these opportunities. Flipping that then to your European hat, I know you've been lobbying a lot in Brussels. How do you see your counterparts? You know, how do we all come out of this together in relation to the ETC's vision to make sure that you mentioned, you know, the stamps, the passports, the way that we can try to have that communication and dialogue all together? You know, what is there anything you can explain or tell us that's not confidential to the other stakeholders?
No, it's not confidential at all. And I do think that this is the time to share practices and benchmark what other countries and other entities are doing, because we're all in this together, that's for sure. It has been a very enriching experience. And we just had the general meeting of ETC in the Algarve a few weeks ago, the first live meeting since the beginning of the pandemic. And it was very useful to see that Portugal's concerns are exactly the same concerns as any other country. Second, that this is not just an issue with Southern European countries, it's an issue with the entire world. It's not just, everyone has the same challenges and the same problems right now. So what we are trying to work with, and clearly we have so many entities engaged, especially inside Europe, with the European Commission, the Council of Europe, the Portuguese, the Parliament, the European Parliament, is trying once again to showcase the importance of tourism inside Europe and how we plan for the future. And telling everyone that we are as much interested and preparing a brighter future, more sustainable, more digital, doing the transition, focused on people, as anyone else. This was a very positive move also from the Portuguese presidency. As you know, Portugal had the presidency of the Council of Europe this first semester. And very ambitious goals like drafting the agenda 2030-2050 for tourism, having more data and clear data, not statistic data, but data that will help us improve our knowledge on the sector and take better decisions. Having better communication, once again, this is very important to any NTO in Europe, and we've discussed that a lot inside the ETC. Getting funding from the Europe for this digital environmental transition, and tourism was for the first time considered one of the 14 industries of importance to Europe. And finally, support for skills. This sector, especially in Europe, will be much more competitive compared with other regions on the world if we support the training of our staff and our workers. And I think those are, in a nutshell, and very briefly, what we've been working and what we will be working for the future.
Coming closer to the event that's running today, and this importance of what your eyes doing with AviaDev, getting airports, airlines, tourism boards around the table, and obviously what you've been saying about, you know, where Portugal has been with its delegations in overseas markets. What's the source, the secret sauce that you have that brings your three-party experience together that you can share with us? And obviously following then during the morning, others will be saying how they're also trying to put the teams all together.
Well, I think I'm not sure if it's a secret sauce, but if it is, it will have garlic and olive oil, that's for sure. I would say that it has a lot to do with experience and knowledge, more than information, experience and knowledge. Each part of this equation, airports, tourism boards, regional boards, airline companies, tour operators, have different experiences and different knowledge about the same process. And being a part of this value chain makes us, of course, very important. But the more we exchange experience and the more we exchange our challenges and different needs, but also at some point coincident needs, then we will have a better result. And I think, of course, in Portugal, we had the VIP program, which is a program to work with airline companies and tour operators in order to support different ways to travel in terms of campaigns, in terms of exchanging information, which was very useful and still is very useful to us. But I think two other things. One, it's really important to work with different partners and get information and data from other partners. And this is crucial also for our information. And the second thing, which I think was very important in Portugal for the past 2 years, we launched the Innovation Center, NEST, a tourism innovation center in Portugal. And we picked some partners from the technological part, but partners that we didn't used to work outside of certain areas. And to give you an idea, the airports in Portugal make part of this innovation center. And being engaged, Tourism of Portugal and the airports of Portugal inside NEST in other projects, like how to create a seamless experience inside our country, or to improve the experience of a tourist through digital and data in our country, makes us realize that we have much more projects in common. And if we build on those projects, it's much easier to build a relation on our focus business. So I think I don't know if it's a secret sauce, but it's a matter of working together and understanding each other's needs.
And if you think further down the supply, and I know in your former career, you've been very strong with the hotel business, how do you see the private sectors getting involved? Should they be part of route development? I know in the Caribbean and Latin America, you've seen hotel groups very strongly incentivizing routes. Is there a role for hotels, or should hotels be expecting it's the government to do the job of bringing, how do we get the privates to really think about supporting the three together as well?
Well, a huge role. In fact, as I told you, our job as a national authority, together with the airports in the country, is also, there's a third part, which are the agencies. And inside these agencies, you have a public entity as well as the private sector. And we all work together for that. So cooperation is crucial. The difficult part is when you have an ecosystem which is so fragmented, so micro and very small companies and enterprises in the country, it's very difficult to coordinate all this. But I think there's a role for everyone, and this fragmented ecosystem has a crucial importance in this seamless experience, in the sustainability of the destination, in providing data for our decisions, and once again, for a clear and very open communication to everyone.
Great. I think just to wrap up, what have we learned during this pandemic? Are there some success stories? Are there some takeaways? A Harvard case study in the future of how companies have managed the challenge. Sometimes we are at our best when we are on our backs against the wall and we have adversity. How do you see the takeaways from all of this?
Well, very, very, very briefly, I think the key takeaways, and as I told previously, this is such a fragmented sector all across Europe. So many partners, so many entities, that the more fragmented we are, the more fragile we are. And this is the time, and I think we've seen that this is the time to put our efforts together, to share info, share knowledge, share data, benchmark with other entities outside of the tourism sector. Think on how can we improve our business models and turn them into more sustainable ones. The second takeaway is how much we depend on other sectors. In terms of risk assessment, in terms of risk management, it's vital that we understand that we need to take action and use science in our favor and ask the right questions. And finally, how much engaged we have to be in finding solutions. This is crucial right now, and I think it's one of the biggest conclusions. How much focused we have to be and engaged, working together in order to find solutions. And we're living a crucial moment. This is a time to restore mobility. This is the time to start moving. And as the campaign in Portugal says, this is the time to be. We will never be fully ourselves if we don't travel, if we don't move from one side to the other.
No, and I think we're, as we say, it's experimenting with. There's no rule book at the moment, and those that take good risk adversity, it's going to be the best way forward. And thank you so much for explaining, how Portugal is trying to adapt, and obviously how you're trying to lobby and support all of the stakeholders of tourism through your ETC role. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and good luck in these grassroots and moving forward.
Thank you, Gavin, and thank you to AviaDev for the invitation. It's great to be here and sharing what we all have been doing. After all, I'm just saying here what we've all been doing for the past months. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I think there we are. You're right. It's more of the same, but I think trying to understand how to get all of these stakeholders in that room and put things forward. So good luck for the rest of the day.